Welcome back, everybody. I hope everyone is doing well today. Today we are going to be learning clocks and telling the time. Let's get started. First of all, there are two common ways of telling the time. One of them is saying the hour first and then the minutes. I'm going to go ahead and give you an example now. Before I do that, I'm going to write this: hours plus minutes. Now, moving on to our example. If I wanted to say this time, I would, first of all, I would say 6, sorry about that, let me change the color here. I would say 6:25. Like I said before, you guys, it's hours plus minutes. First we say the hour, which is 6, then we say the minutes, which is 25. Let me go ahead and give you another example. Whoops, sorry about that. It's 8:05. I'm going to go ahead and write write that for you. I am going to say 8:05. Or you could say 8:05. Doesn't really matter, but 8:05 is more commonly used. I'm going to go ahead and show this to you one more time. It's hours plus minutes. Now, moving on to another example is this time right here. I'm going to go ahead and write this out for you. Again, like I said, it's hours plus minutes. Now, I'm going to go ahead and write this out for you. It is 2:34. It's 2:34. And that's this right here. Now, moving on to our next section. The other common way of telling time is say the minutes first and then the hour. Let's go ahead and start with the first one. I'm going to go ahead and write this out for you guys. Say the minutes first and then the hour. So if I wanted to use minutes between 1 and 30, I would use past after the minutes. Let me go ahead and write that down for you. I'm going to go ahead and put a star here. For minutes between 1 and 30, we use past after minutes. For minutes 1 through 30, we use past after minutes. And I'm going to go ahead and give you an example now. But before I do that, I'm going to write this down. It's minutes plus past plus hour. So, my first example is going to be 11:20. If I wanted to say like the example I gave you above, I would say 20, which is the minutes, past. Let me go ahead and write that out for you before I move on. It's 20, which is this right here, past 11. It's 20 past 11. Like I said before, here's our 20. Then we are going to say past, and we are going to say 11, the hour. Now, I'm going to go ahead and give you another example. Sorry about that. It's 4:18. I would say 18 past 4. I said this because it is 18 minutes after 4. 18 minutes after 4. And when we say after, we are going to use past. I'm going to go ahead and give you one more example, which is 10:28. Let's go ahead and write this out. Again, since it is between minutes 1 and 30, we use past. We are going to use past. And it's going to be minutes plus past plus hour. Now let's go ahead and write this out. We are going to say 28 past 10. So that is 28 28 past 10. So it's minutes plus past plus hour between numbers 1 and 30. Now, for minutes between 31 and 59, we use 2 after the minutes. I'm going to go ahead and write that out for you. For minutes between 31 and 59, we use 2. After the minutes. I'm going to go ahead and put that in a box. We use 2. For example, if I wanted to say 2:35, let me go ahead and open up a new sheet of paper here. For example, if I wanted to say 2:35, it's going to be minutes plus after plus hour. Now, in order to do this, we say 25 to 3, sorry about that, 2, 3. So what I did here is, since there are 60 minutes and 1 hour, I went ahead and took 60, subtracted it from 35, and got 25. That is 25, that's right here. And since the next upcoming hour is 3 o'clock, which is here, I said 25 to 3. So it is there are 25 minutes left to 3 o'clock. And you could say 25 to 3. Let me go ahead and give you another example. It's 8:51. 8:51. Since our upcoming hour is 9 o'clock, and there are 9 minutes left to 9, I'm going to say, using this format, minutes, again, it's a reminder, minutes plus after, plus 2 plus hour. I made a mistake here, guys, sorry about that. It was supposed to be 2. That's my fault. Right, so it's minutes plus 2 plus hour. So if I wanted to write this out, I would say 9 to 9, which means there are 9 minutes left to 9 o'clock. Moving on to my next example, this is going to be my last example, is 2:59. Let's say I wanted to say this. Again, I will write minute. I'm going to write this out. Minutes plus 2 plus plus hour. I'm going to say 1, 2, 3. I would say 1 to 3 since there is 1 minute left for to 3 o'clock. Oops, sorry about that. Again, moving. Let me go over this. That's 1 minute left for 3 o'clock. This is very important, you guys. Now, moving on to my next section, I'm going to go ahead and write this. When it is 15 minutes past the hour, we normally say a quarter past. Let me go ahead and write that out for you. When it is 15 minutes past the hour, we say a quarter past. For example, I'm going to go ahead and give you an example right here, 7:15. If I wanted to say 7:15, I would say quarter past 7. Again, it's minutes plus, minutes plus hours. Since our time is between 1 and 30, we say past, and that is because it's between 1 and 30. Moving on to my next example. For example, if it's 15 minutes before the hour, we say a quarter to. I'm going to go ahead and write that out for you. When it is 15 minutes before, minutes before the hour, we are going to say a quarter to. I'm going to go ahead and give you an example now. Let me write this out right here. It's 12:45. And if I wanted to say 12:45, like I just said before, I am going to say a quarter to 1. Now, I'm going to go ahead and explain this to you. It's minutes. It's minutes plus 2 plus hour. Why did we use 2 this time? The reason we use 2 this time is because it's between the minutes are between 31 and 59. Now, moving on to my next example. When when it is 30 minutes past the hour, we say half past. Oops, let me go ahead and write that to you in red. We say half past. For example, if I want to say 3:30, I'm going to go ahead and give you an example momentarily. If I wanted to say this, we can use half past. But we could also say 3:30. Now, let's move on to our example. Let's say 3:30. I am going to say half, which is this right here, past. We are using past because it is between 1 and 30. Sorry about that. Half past 3. And 3 is right here. So if I wanted to say this time, I could say half past 3, or you can say 3:30. 3:30. Now, moving on to our next section, o'clock. Sorry about that. Let me go ahead and write that out for you. O'clock. Now, the important thing about o'clock is, I'm going to go ahead and write this in red. We use o'clock when there are no minutes. This is very important, you guys. We use o'clock when there are no minutes. Let's do some examples. My first example is going to be 10. I could say 10 o'clock. Again, as you can see, there are no minutes. And that is very important, you guys. We could only use o'clock when there are no minutes. So, moving on to my next example is 5. we are going to say 5:00. Let me give you one more example. We could say, whoops, sorry about that. We are going to say 1. And we could say 1:00. This is I'm going to give you something here. This is very important. Sometimes it is written as 9:00. So let me go ahead and write that out for you. Sometimes it is written as 9. Oops, sorry about that. Let me write that out in red for you. It's 9:00. It is the number plus o'clock. And this is very important, so I'm going to go ahead and also put a red star here. Now, moving on to our next section is 12:00. For 12:00, there are 4 expressions in English. Let me go ahead and write that for you. For 12:00, there are 4 expressions in English. Now, let's look at these expressions. What are they? I'm going to go ahead and write 12:00 here. For 12:00, we could say 12:00. That is our first expression. 12:00. For our other expression, I'm going to go ahead and write this by using different colors. We could say midday. For our third expression, it's still 12:00. We could use noon, which is middle of the day, same as in midday. And for our last expression is, oops, sorry about that, is midnight. Midnight. So 12:00 has 4 different expressions. One of them is 12:00, just written as plain 12:00. One of them is midday, the other one is noon, and the last one is midnight, which means middle of night. Now, moving on to our next section, asking for time. You approach someone and you don't know what time it is. You want to ask them for the time. How would you ask them? Well, the common the common question forms we use to ask for time are what time is it, or what is the time? I'm going to go ahead and write that out for you. The common questions for asking time are, one of them is what time is it, and the other one is what is the time. What is the time? These are the two most common ways, two most common ways to ask. Two most common ways to ask time. One of them is what time is it, and the other one is what is the time. Now, moving on to my next section. The common question forms we use to ask at what time a specific event will happen are what time or when. I'm going to go ahead and write this out for you. What time a specific event will happen are what time sorry about that are what time and when. If I wanted to give you a much more clear example, I could say, what time does the flight to New York leave? I would say, what time does the flight to New York leave? I'm going to go ahead and give you another example. When does the concert begin? I'm going to go ahead and underline these. When does the concert begin? I'm going to go ahead and underline this for you as well. For example, if I want to say, if I wanted to ask a specific event to someone, I would say, I would ask it in two ways. One of them is what, and the other one is when. And given my example sentences, I would say, what time does the flight to New York leave? Or when does the concert begin? Now, moving on to my next section. Next section is going to be, since we ask for the time, now we are going to be answering that question. I'm going to go ahead and write giving the time for excuse me, for questions that are asked for time, we use it, it is or it's to respond to the questions asked for the time right now. I'm going to go ahead and write that for you. We use it, is, or it's, or it's to respond to the questions that ask for time right now. For example, someone came up to me, asked me the time. They said, what is the time? I would say, it is 3:30. I would say, it is 3:30. Or I can say, it is 5. Oops, sorry about that. Or I could say it is 3. 4:30. I'm going to go ahead and make a note of this. For time used in the present or right now, we say or we use it's, sorry about that, or it is. Now moving on to my next section. We use the structure at plus time when giving the time of a specific event. For example, I'm going to go ahead and write that for you. We use the structure at, sorry about that, at plus time when giving the time for a specific event. Let's go ahead and do some examples for you to understand this much more clearly. If someone came up to me and asked me when the bus is going to be here, when the bus will be here, when, or we could say when will the bus be here, when the bus will be here, and I am going to respond to them by saying the bus will be here at noon. Noon as in 12 o'clock, or noon as in midday. Let me go ahead and give you another example. Someone came up to me and asked, when will the flight leave? When will, or instead of saying when, I'm going to go ahead and say, what time will the flight leave? I'm going to go ahead and answer that question for you. I would say the flight leaves at a quarter to 2, and that is 1:4. Whoops, sorry about that. And that will be 1:45, as in quarter to 2. So someone came up to me, asked me what time will the flight leave. I would respond to them by saying the flight leaves at a quarter to 2. Now moving on to our next section, we could also use pronouns when telling the time. I'm going to go ahead and write this. We can also use subject pronouns to these responses. Instead of saying the bus arrives at midday, let me go ahead and write that out for you. Instead of saying the bus leaves at midday or noon, which is 12 o'clock, we could say it leaves at noon. We could also use pronouns, and it here being the bus. Let me go ahead and give you another example. Instead of saying the flight arrives at 1:45, the flight arrives at a quarter to 2. I can say let me go ahead and write this out for you. I could say it arrives at a quarter to 2. So, like I said before, we could also use subject pronouns also to tell, to respond to the questions of telling time. Now, moving on to my final section, AM and PM. AM and PM. In English, we don't normally use a 24-hour clock, so let me go ahead and write that out for you. This is very important. We don't, sorry about that, normally use the 24-hour clock in English. Instead of that, we use AM and PM. Well, we use AM for the morning, and we use PM for the afternoon, and night. For example, if I wanted to say 9 a.m., this would mean 9 o'clock in the morning. If I say 9 p.m., that would be 9 o'clock and in the afternoon, or at night. So, if AM is used for mornings and PM is used for afternoon and nights. Today, guys, we learned clocks and telling time. I hope you enjoyed this lesson as much as I did. Thank you for listening. Hope to see you next time. Take care.